Okay, I'd like to call the Building and Facilities Construction Committee meeting of Wednesday, October 5th, 2022, to order at what is it up there?
407.
4:07? Thank you. And first of all, I would like to welcome Ray. I did send him an email as chair. So welcome to the BFCC committee.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
And so I'd like to go around the table and have you say your name for the recorder.
Linda Brown.
Fred Fontaine.
Shirley Mazinski, and Ray, could you just give your name again on Zoom?
Absolutely, Ray Klotz.
All right, and we also have Matt Wojcik and Matt Benoit. Matt, come on up.
I wasn't sure.
Oh, hey, come in. And I will say, Bob Wormy did call. He has been excused. He is not able to make it today. All right, the first item on the agenda, again, is the Board of Selectmen assignment, which is the needs assessment and feasibility considerations supporting options for public safety and/or highway department building projects. So we did do a walkthrough, and it was, I thought, very interesting, and we need to get our information together and comments and see what we come up with. Anybody? And Ray, if you, I know you didn't get to do the walkthroughs of the fire station, the highway department, and the police department, but I'm sure they'd welcome you and ask you, if you have any questions, so you can get up to speed.
Thank you very much.
And
Matt?
in lieu of that,
Yep.
all of the videos from the committee's tours are available
Oh, good.
on the town's, you
Website?
can navigate through the website at, is it YouTube, Sarah?
Yes.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Okay.
So they're all there, so at least you
Some
can catch
idea.
up without having, in the middle of the
that's
night
good.
when you don't want to go on a tour.
Right.
I'll send a link to Ray.
Oh, great, thanks. Anybody? Any comments?
I do.
Yep, Fred?
I'll start with the police department. I was impressed with how well they take care of what they have and what's there, and how they're getting by with what's there. My initial assessment is that they don't really need all that much. I think the chief even was saying we don't really need all that much. It's more office space and meeting space, which I would think could be, it's right upstairs, it's there. So by fixing up what's here and for them, and then they could take their lobby, which is obviously way too small, pushing back into that, where they have that meeting space now, seems like that would accommodate pretty much everything that they were asking for. Other than some of the outside stuff that needs to be covered could be done with carports, just as well as a garage. So that's just my initial thoughts on the police. Fire, there's some stuff that I didn't really understand over there, because it seems like a lot of the stuff that was in the assessment just seems to be deferred maintenance of what's already there. Why a lot of the stuff that needs to be fixed and repaired and stuff hasn't been repaired up to this point, I don't really understand. Maybe I just haven't been paying attention the past, the past years. And it seems like a lot of that too is space for, sleeping quarters and meeting space as well, which could be done with, perhaps with additions, which wouldn't be all that expensive, because it's not really technical space, it's basically just space. And that takes us to the highway barn. Somebody's gonna get hurt over there. That place is, they get by with what they have, and I said it when we were walking, you guys keep this place at night as nice and neat and organized, and but it's way too small. Even the lighting is completely inadequate. Somebody's going to get hurt. They need, that's not adequate. What they have is less than adequate. It's dangerous. The good thing about a facility like they would need is it's not expensive. There's not a lot of technical space. Once again, it's space. So I think that what they have now is well beyond its useful life. Well beyond its useful life. There's these open holes in the ground. So if we were to prioritize, I would go highway barn, way over and above any other facility.
And just as another thing regarding the three, maybe we can get the copies of the, but all the departments, the information to our new member.
Yes.
Okay. That might help too. All right, and I did ask Matt Benoit to make copies, and you have them in your folder about the acreage, and you just received the amount. And thank you again, Matt, of the fire and highway, and also this area here for the police, so. Linda, yeah?
Yes, I agree 100%. Every word you said, Britt. Absolutely. The police station is like Taj Mahal compared to the other two buildings. But then the fire department, it's not half as crowded as the highway. I mean, the highway has not 1 inch of spare room. And you're right, very dangerous. So I agree with that assessment. I mean, the police station keeps saying they need more officers. Well, yes, that will require more space, but they're not, as far as I can see, the space is not undersized. It seemed to me like we weren't cramped walking around like in the other two buildings at all. So I think the highway department, even if it's just to get all the trucks under one roof, and what did Adam say, like 6 feet apart was for safety?
Right.
And to work on the vehicles? So that's a priority, and the size and the amount of trucks we have is not going to be any less. It's always going to increase with all the roads we have and more equipment that we seem to need. So I agree, and where they are now, I mean, I see no room to add on. Even if they tear the buildings down, we still need parking for the help, for the people that work there. How many employees do they have at the highway? 10?
8.
8. Yeah, and if they all have 8 cars out there, you still got to have room to get trucks out and maneuverability out there. And all those buildings are ancient and dangerous. You're right. So I can see the highway is definitely a priority. I mean, the fire department, they do have, it seems to me, room to add on there. And they already have plenty of parking for what they have, and I think they have adequate access for the big engines to move around and come in and out of the buildings, even if they added on, either on the sides or in the back. They do have a lot of grassy area, as I can see on the maps. So I don't know if that's in an aquifer. It probably is.
It is.
So it probably couldn't be paved, but we'd have to look at that later. So that's about all I have.
Yeah, the main thing is, we've got to come up with a recommendation for the Board of Selectmen. Am I correct? Yeah. I would like to get input from Bob Wormy And if Ray has an opportunity in the next, because we'll be having another meeting in, I think it's 2 weeks, our regular meeting. So if we could kind of get more information or get Bob Wormy's opinion, thoughts, and if Ray wants to join in, that would be great. I concur with both of you said. What I did was I asked every department what were the pros and cons of where they were located. I think all of them, I believe, said, they liked the idea of being in the center of the town, or roughly the center of the town. And the police department, the police chief said he wouldn't want to go too much further west than where the highway barn and fire department was, which is, yeah, good location. My concern here is, and they've adjusted to it, but when they get a call and they have to fly down the street onto Main Street, that doesn't set well with me, but that's me, safety. But I agree with, the highway department, you squeak through there, if you can get through there, and not all the vehicles are in there. And we are already paying an amount per month for a rental of the office space, and that's for health and because of the exhaust and so forth. So, Matt, the two Matts, if you have any questions, comments you'd like to make, it's welcome.
I don't want to express my opinion about the facilities
Right.
in general. I just want to make one kind of statement.
Excuse me, Matt,
That's okay.
I do watch it on TV meetings, and if you don't speak into the microphone, can't hear a word you're saying.
Thank you.
Thank you, please.
Let's try that. Thank you.
Perfect.
So, hey, I don't want to give my opinion about each of the facilities. I just want to make one comment.
Sure, suggestions.
I do agree the highway barn is a substantial need. I caution the board not to, and I'm not saying you are, but when you have one, call it a bad apple, it's tough to tell how bad the other ones look compared next to it. And fire and police definitely have significant space needs, as you've both mentioned. Just for the viewers at home, and even if highway may look like the worst apple right now, the other ones still have their significant needs as well. That's the only statement I wanted to make.
Sure, and I agree with you. Yep.
I don't want to go on the record with any substantive thoughts
Yep, I understand.
until your two other members have had a chance to absorb the information and share their thoughts, as I don't want to
Taint the,
taint the process, I guess you'd call it, or add the pigment before the paint is mixed.
Right.
How was that?
suggestions to
But I do,
our procedure.
right, the procedure, so I kind of, not kind of, I would like to recommend, or at least talk about what the desired recommendation, format of the recommendation coming from this board would be. What is the scope of the design effort that the town would put out for a request for qualifications from the design community? So you're not limited to an either or. It's not a binary question, either we're going to build one big building or not. That's not the task at hand. It is, you can refine that as much as you want to and say, what would the cost of a highway barn be and where would you locate it, would be one design element. But the other would be taking into consideration the space needs of the other departments. Do a status quo forward analysis as well as a potential, at least in the fire department, build if that's your consensus, whatever your consensus is, new building, addition, reconfiguration of their existing space, whatever it is that you guys decide as You can add all those things on. That can be the task. It doesn't have to be one single discrete project with an either or a single project with a cost estimate. That is not the parameters of what you've been asked to do. You've been asked to narrow down what you think the community will support, what you will support, and then write the scope of a design effort around that.
Questions of Matt? No? Okay. All right, so we'll keep this on the agenda for the next meeting or two. Hopefully, we can come up with a recommendation, and if we have any other questions from any of the departments, I'm sure, we can get the whatever.
I just want to follow up on what Matt said about
Sure. Fred?
bad apple, and the highway department is a rotten apple that needs attention like years ago. The other, it's dangerous. I'm going to say it again, it's dangerous over there. I don't see, there's things that, need attention at the fire department, but I don't walk around there going, holy cow, somebody's going to get hurt.
Okay, so are you both okay with, again, on the agenda, and get the opinion of Bob Wormy and, okay,
And our newest member, too.
and our newest member, yes.
I was going to say, our newest member, I'm sure if he reached out to the department heads, they'd be glad to show him around.
But
That
as,
doesn't break any meeting laws or anything, right?
right, as was mentioned, he can also see it on YouTube.
And if he needs contact, he can call the selectman's office.
Right. Okay. Very good. Any questions, Ray?
No, just listening.
Okay. All right. So we will move on. And if you can give us an update on the status of the oil spill, where are we?
So we're nearing closeout. I'm trying to remember what I said to you last time, because I want to make sure I give you new information. We're nearing closeout. There is a lingering issue of some potential soil gas underneath the boiler, the pad that's there. So that was going to be investigated before we could go to closeout. It is the opinion of our second contractor that the first contractor kind of went a little bit overboard with a lot of things. And I had our property and casualty renewal meeting this week with Maya, and I brought it to their attention. I said, we're going to have a meeting about the specifics of this case, the way it was handled, and the resulting financial liability both to the insurance company and eventually the taxpayers of the town, based on the designation of this event as a Tier 1 event. So Tier 1, for those who are not familiar with it, when you spill oil on the ground and there's potential for it to run into groundwater and to create an air quality issue inside a building and all of the environmental problems that can arise from it. Tier 1 is a certain level of severity and requires very hands-on involvement from the DEP. Lesser levels of severity don't require that level of oversight, and usually if the cleanup is done according to DEP standards, it can be closed out fairly quickly and with less cost. So that's where we ended up. We ended up being a Tier 1. We probably shouldn't have been a Tier 1, and we would have already closed this already if we had pursued the facts on the ground in a different manner. So that's where we are there. In terms of, because they are very closely related issues, we more or less completely rebuilt the boiler in the last month or so. There was a leaky gasket inside the boiler, and there was, some maintenance that could be done while that was being fixed. So that, heavy-duty maintenance, cleaning out any buildup from the water, making sure all the fuel is flowing properly. So it was a little bit more expensive than just fixing the gasket, but it has actually, it's going to greatly improve the performance of the boiler. The boiler was installed, I want to say,
I was just.
2012,
Two,
2014,
no, oh, no,
before that?
No,
After that.
after that, I believe.
3 years old?
No,
no.
it's more than that.
Really?
So I started in July of 2017 here,
Oh,
and that project was pretty much closed out. So it can't be from 2017 forward, as I would remember.
No, yeah, that's probably, I know, I remember we were having, well, the boiler that was
The
in there was
disaster, right.
50 years old or more, and I kept saying, we have to replace this, and they'd fix it, and okay, it's all right. But, no,
So the preventive maintenance we just did is actually probably going to greatly
Extend
enhance the life of this
Yeah.
boiler and make it operate more efficiently just now. So it was an opportunistic thing to do. Since it had to be taken apart to fix
Mm-hmm.
the gasket, it was a chance to clean out all the chambers and
that
give it a
includes
full
the,
inspection.
Day tank, or was that on?
That's the boiler itself. The day tank,
okay.
we have a successful bidder. We're expecting them to finish that work.
Oh, okay.
It's been very busy around here in terms of contractors coming and going.
All right.
May I ask how the leaky gasket was discovered?
So Adam Furno inspects all of the major mechanicals in our buildings at least once a week. And so he saw some dripping,
Good catch.
so,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's half the battle, right, is keeping your eye on things.
right.
That's why we love Adam so much. He's a very, very detail-oriented guy and stays on top of the stuff. So that's it on that.
And there was I forget what you call it, but the item that didn't close, and that's why we got the spill, and that's
that was the day tank. I
the
think.
real
Yeah.
situation.
A whole bunch of things happened with
Yeah.
the spill and when that happened, and all of that equipment is being replaced.
Okay.
So that we're not putting new on top of something that was already old and maybe defective or soup to nuts. It's all going to be new. New pump, new sensors,
With
new
the
tank,
sense of- Yeah,
day tank.
yeah. Okay. Questions? Anyone?
Adam is still doing his daily filling of the tank, or filling the fuel for the boiler, I mean, okay.
Okay.
That's a lot of work.
Okay,
Adam,
It's daily in the cold weather. We're not quite there yet.
yeah.
green communities, any,
Not much of an update here. We're just trying to get the funding closed out with this, with DOER. So we've requested disbursements of the final funds to offset the expenses that we've paid. We won't be going out for a fall round, but instead we're going to start conducting audits with some of our other facilities and look to apply for another round in the spring. But our work is done on the 4 projects that we had for this spring. There's a little patching of some drywall that still needed to be done, but that wasn't through the vendor.
I think it was done. I signed the warrant.
I think it was
for that.
Tuesday, so. But anyway, yeah, it's just closing out the financials on that project at this point. That's all we have left.
anyone? Questions?
So again, you have a new member, Madam Chair, so if I
Yeah,
could just
sure.
quickly explain, Green Communities is a competitive grant program. And it is designed to make us more energy efficient. So the combination of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and National Grid funding sources to change things like light fixtures and heating, ventilation, air conditioning equipment, weatherizing our buildings, installing, blown-in insulation, all these things that can help us just be more responsible in the use of energy. Competitive means it is competitive, so there are communities that apply that don't get funding. You have to close out 1 year's round of projects before you're allowed to apply for the next time. So that's where we are right now. We're closing out the projects that we've done. We've done an LED fixture conversion over at part of the high school, so phase 1 of the high school project. The lighting was changed out at the fire station, which is where we ended up with a little bit of a whoopsie-doo. And we did one other project,
the
the
adult
senior
social
center.
center, yep.
Yeah, the adult social center, LED fixtures were done. We typically look at lighting projects as something we want to pair with something that may not have as quick a return on investment. Because if it's done strategically, we always have enough savings from the LED lights to carry our project through the competition and get the money we applied for. So if we did all the lighting at once, we would definitely win, but then we would put ourselves in a bad spot trying to get the other types of projects done. I let our quote-unquote expediter, so these energy projects are not done through the competitive bidding process under Chapter 30B. These are Chapter 25A exceptions to the state procurement law. So National Grid and the Commonwealth do a competitive recruitment and screening process and come up with a list of contractors that basically serve as our general contractors for the expenditure of grant funds. The last expediter we had, I ran into a couple of really disappointing things. And even though the electric vehicle chargers outside are not technically a Green Communities project, they are an electric vehicle incentive program, EVIP. It was a different grant. Our expediter did get that for us. This equipment is horrendously bad. The software that operates it is horrendously bad. And all of my complaints have not really gotten us a whole lot of improvement. This is not a unique experience to Douglas. Many towns have done this. They put charging stations in, went with low bids, got fairly substandard equipment, and only worked for a few months, and then it broke down. And of course, I've expressed this recently to the Attorney General's office and to the DOER. You know, we want to be forward-thinking, energy, thoughtful community, but we keep falling down because the things that we put in don't work. And people who have electric vehicles, at one point, we had a fairly steady stream of customers here, 4, 5, 6 cars, different accounts. They'd come. There was one couple that would bring one car and take the other one home and then couldn't switch it out. And it was all working out really well. It was all free of charge because we wanted to establish that we were providing this for townspeople before we passed along any cost. But now, people don't even come anymore because the stations don't work.
That's unfortunate.
So that was one real big fall down from the expediters, from my point of view on the expediter's behalf. And then when they did the LED switch out at the fire station, they took out a fixture to look at the type of fixture that it was, which they could only determine from looking at, pulling it off the wall, a ceiling, and looking behind it, seeing how it was attached and whatnot. They put that light fixture back up. Well, they had disturbed the support mechanism for that. So, you know, it's a big, long fluorescent light. And so it wasn't properly secured back in the bay. It fell. It fell so hard that the electrical cord ripped a long line, a hole through the drywall. And then we took a couple of pictures of it and sent it to the expediter, and they all scratched their heads, we didn't leave it that way. Oh, no, yeah, maybe it was that, you know, level 7 on the Richter scale earthquake we had only in Douglas and only at the fire station. That must have been it, right? That's the explanation. So a lot of back and forth, and they did some of that work without, they didn't do it without permits. It's that they got started before they had a permit. They had to be reminded that they needed a permit. They already had the permit in hand when they did the shoddy work, but it was just a combination of things, like where are these people coming from? They weren't coming from Massachusetts. Sometimes we had to chase them down and figure out what licensing they had. They universally pretended they didn't know they needed a permit, and then they did shoddy work. So I was like,
Wow.
you know what, you're not vetting your contractors well enough. So we parted company with Northern Energy. We have a new expediter, Innovis, out of Rockland, Massachusetts, and they have some of their staff is out of different parts of Rhode Island. But I think our initial meeting was I'm optimistic after having a conversation with them about the necessity of quality work.
Absolutely.
But they will do their own audits. So we're going through the process now of sending all of our electricity bills and all of our fuel bills and projects that have been completed to date, projects that were on the list, but maybe they want to revisit our prioritization of those projects for their own strategy. And the incentives have changed. So National Grid has significantly increased its support of heat pump technology. So those grants are much more, I like the word lucrative, it makes it sound like we're on Wall Street or something, but they are much more generous than they were to support the switch out of old-timey AC and heating units. So that when we might see a renewed focus on heating, which was really where it needed to be. So that is how that's going to roll going forward. So we're anticipating putting together a good, strong application for next time. Are we limited? Did you check on our
We are.
limits?
Yeah.
So we're limited to 100,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, so our project list, we can only get 100,000 on the next one. Is this one,
It was more, wasn't
It
it?
was slightly more, it was like a 104 and
Yeah.
change. But,
That's for all the projects total.
you know, and now I think about it, that total might not have included that amount. And if it didn't, then we're under. So I'll double check that. So,
Okay, good. Questions, anybody?
I just haven't had the opportunity to be in one of those buildings since when it's dark and the lights are on. You happy with the quality of the lights?
so these switch out projects are usually winner, chicken dinner. I haven't been to the high school since this was done. In those buildings where we've done it, I know they're pretty happy at the senior center. The LEDs tend to be brighter.
Yeah.
Why did we do it already?
at the adults,
Primary school. So we haven't had a single complaint. I don't know that people are that in tune with the way the light shines on their work, but
Could we get a
I can
a
tell you
report?
what, we've saved a lot of money. So the streetlights are where I see it the most, right? So
Yeah.
converting the streetlights to LED, that was our first project under Green Communities. And we now only spend about 38% of what we used to spend
Wow.
for streetlights.
That's great.
Yeah, so that has really been a strong project. So,
Anyone?
It-
Ray?
Madam Chair, it looks
Yep.
fantastic at the Adult Social Center. Just the lighting difference from the kind of the soft yellow to the brighter lights. I know it helps some of the folks there that are doing games and different tasks up there.
Right.
And I haven't heard anything bad just from the folks that I talked to, but it's definitely a nice step up. It's
Good.
good over there.
All right. Anyone? Okay, thank you. Our municipal backup generator here, have we gotten one in yet?
so that's the,
The holdup?
that's why you haven't seen any activity yet.
Okay,
So that contract was let, Fall River Electric got it. The generator is on order, and I spoke to Howard Gerber, the engineer, probably a week ago for an update. And he said, you won't really see a whole lot of activity at the municipal center until they have the unit. Or they know the unit's in transit, then they'll come and they'll start to do the prep work outside. Obviously, we want to be in the ground before it freezes.
yes.
I'm optimistic, knock on wood, that we might still get this done before the snow flies. But I don't want to rush it in order to, just to have it done. I want it to be done right. I don't
Right.
want the trench work and everything else to be. There's a little tricky in the front. I think we've explained this to this commission before. We have some utilities out front of the building that crisscross, and it probably would not have been done that way if everything were done fresh, right? But because things were added over time, we ended up with electrical conduit going one way and water and I think maybe some fuel lines going underneath or around it. So that will be a little bit of a challenging dig, so we just want them to take their time and
Yes.
figure it out. But everything's, like, in terms of the paperwork, the contract's been executed, and we have somebody working on the project, getting the project done.
All right, questions?
No.
Okay, Bad Luck Pond Outlet Bridge. Is it finally done? There was some lingering grading.
So, yeah, there are some punch list items that needed to be completed. New England Building and Bridge, the NEBB, you've seen their trucks around, not just at this project, but there's a bridge in Uxbridge. Unfortunately, some people passed away in car accidents there with a big hump.
Yep.
So right before you get to Lackey Dam Road, there's a bridge. They're also working on that project. And I've noticed that they tend, when they're there working on that one, we get some work done here. So when they're in the neighborhood, they're doing it. They've done a lot of work to finish the guardrail. I think they have one more delineator for the guardrail that needs to be applied, but they correctly did the rest of it. They have, I think, gone back and forth with them about wetlands plantings and making sure they do the restoration work. And for a while, the conversation was the drought was so bad that we didn't actually have the water in that area that we normally do, so it would have been wasted effort to put in wetland sensitive
Understandable.
plants.
Yeah,
And now it's getting colder.
yeah.
So I'm not entirely sure. John Furno has been on these guys like every single day. When are you coming? When are you going to finish? But again, with plantings like that, we want to make sure they
Now
they
is the
do it.
time, you've still got a good month
We
and a
probably
half.
do have a good month, and it is nice and wet out there now, so we're back to normal.
Yeah,
So that's where we stand. The last thing I had heard, there was very little left on the bridge itself. A little bit of painting, we were willing to do the painting ourselves. Stop lines and all that. So that's very close to close out.
Okay. One more time maybe on the agenda,
One more time.
we hope. Okay, municipal fire alarm, are we still holding off on that?
That's still on hold.
And do you think it'll be, again, after the roof is put on?
After the roof and after we resolve our phone issues here. Your municipal fire alarm requires a hardwired phone connection. And we are, through the ARPA process, talking about upgrading the phones in the building for voice over internet protocol. While we're doing that work, we want to make sure that our connections for the fire alarm are all in place, and we'll take advantage of the work we're doing. But that's not going to hold it up. In other words, it's primarily the roof, making sure we don't leak on a brand-new fire alarm system. So that's why that's on hold.
are the phones being upgraded, or?
Yeah, so,
We've been dealing with this fire alarm issue for a long time.
yeah, we went out to bid, we got a couple of really, this is on Bill Cundiff's watch, we got some pretty sketchy responses, and didn't feel comfortable at all with signing a contract with any of them. They were all really lowball, they didn't really grasp what we're up against. So, for Ray's benefit and anybody else who's not familiar with the situation in Town Hall, we actually have 2 fire alarm systems, one in the police station, one for the rest of the building. They are married together on one master panel, and the master panel is so gosh darn old that the techs that come, they're like, yeah, I don't even know, like, can we get a part for this thing? So that's where we're at. We cannot fix it. It is working. But if anything should happen to it, we won't be able to repair it. So it needs to be done, but we've had any number of small leaks on the roof. So these low voltage wires that go into these crawl spaces and everything need to be safe from water penetration, and that's where we are with the status of it. The phones, it's more than, I like the old days, because the old days were great, right? Phone company puts lines into your building, and you have all these little spaghetti, little colored wires, right? But they went somewhere, they were jacks, right? And if you plugged your phone in, you had a phone.
Yep.
It's much more than that now. We have a 911, emergency 911 position in this building, and we have other high-sensitivity telecommunications links from the police department out to the wide, wide world, including the FBI and the state police and other agencies. And there are some mandated requirements for the 911 system that we no longer meet, and we have some switching equipment down in the basement that needs to be replaced. And our IT guys, who are very, very sharp, said, well, why would you spend a lot of money to get a brand-new switch and to provision a brand-new switch of such and such a brand, which I won't name, I could tell you, but when we already have one here that we've already bought for the town that will handle the same type of traffic, and we know how to provision it. And our vendor, partners, technology said, well, no, it's our system, you have to use the switch. We want to sell you for $3,500 rather than the $300 one you already have. So this broached the topic generally of where do we stand. When partners installed this phone system here, I had just started working here. Suzanne Kane, who knew a lot about phone systems, was the executive assistant to the select board. She had been tasked with getting the project done. She had found partners. It was a good price. It was very affordable. Town meeting approved the funds. I think it was, I want to say $14,000. It just wasn't even that much money. The building had what is known as Category 3 wiring in it. And partners, when they put in their system, sold us a system that would play nice in the sandbox with Cat 3 wire. When we got the grant to upgrade all of the wiring in the building to Cat 5, we needed to start to do all these adapters and other things so that the system wouldn't crash, because it was now on a much more capable system of wires in the building. Cat 5 handles more traffic and handles it in a different way. So it's kind of, it's got some obsolescence built into it at this point, because it's just not optimal to have a Cat 3 phone system on a Cat 5 wiring in a building. And I'm not an expert in this area, so if I'm stepping on my own feet, I'm generally outlining what the issue is, if I'm not technically
Understand.
precise. So we went out to the marketplace and solicited some bids from statewide firms that are on the statewide contractor list, so we don't have to bid out. We can just directly negotiate with them. And have come up with a solution that will help us marry the town's phone system to the school department's phone system directly, so that we will all be on one system and dial extension numbers, and that system would then also, the same contractor would be able to marry in some of our security camera needs, so enhancing our security downstairs and at the schools. So it sounds like a lot of work, and it is, but in the grand scheme of the universe, first of all, it's all qualified for ARPA money, right? So it's not going to go to town meeting for a funding request. We can do it with ARPA. It's all ARPA eligible. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of money, but it greatly modernizes our operation and gets the police department out of the hot water they're in, because they need to catch up. The demands of 911 today are that you need to be able to not only know what building someone is in, but you need to be able to geolocate their phone signal. So whether they're on the first floor, second floor, third floor, either in the west end of the building or the east side of the building, if it's a building of substantial size. And right now, we don't have that modality, so we have to catch up with that. The FCC requires us to do that under a 911 service, so we have to do it.
So I was going to ask you if it qualified for ARPA funds, because this is really, it's a safety for the school, for people here, the circumstances that are out there, scary.
So we
And this has
digressed.
been on the, this is on the, our for a long time.
Well, that, I have a question. So how does this tie in with the fire alarm here, the phone system?
So we're going to be going at it with the phone system.
So
The municipal fire alarm connects to-
cannot be fixed until we fix the phones even.
Again, I don't know that I want to say that,
Okay.
because it's a landline, and we're going to be doing a different kind of phone system. I just think that when we have the experts and the pros here, and let's make sure that everything plays nice
But
together.
it might tie in.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So hopefully we'll be hearing more about this soon.
Hopefully, the select board will be able to sort out some of their priorities, and that's all that needs to happen, is when they vote it, because we've already done all the research. We already have the bid price. We already have the system spec'd. So,
But some of the things that I've heard them talking about in their meetings for under the opera funds, I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe I've heard this one under the opera.
yeah, so they've been
It needs,
talking about it for so long, it's probably disappeared from people's radar screen. I brought up the phones and the security cameras at the very first meeting that ARPA was discussed. So I filled out the paperwork to request from the select board those projects. But then, as we've gone along and more projects have been added, we haven't gone back and talked about the original set of proposals that came from the various departments. But it has been on the list of things that they are considering.
so do you think it would help if this committee recommended that, if they so chose to?
Yeah, if you, I really don't think there's anything you can't recommend if it crosses your radar screen that's a building issue that you want to opine on.
Yeah, I was just questioning myself, why is the fire alarm system under our purview, but that phone system isn't? I'm not sure that either one.
Yeah, because the
Needs to
phone
be.
could be very expensive.
Well, your nexus, I guess I think it's a great question, Fred, I really, through the chair, I don't know the answer. The municipal fire alarm will definitely involve a Chapter 149 building construction contract, because there will be elements installed and removed in the building that require
Hardware.
construction. The phones, we're really not going to pull any wires or do anything. So the drops are all in place. It was all done under the prior contract. Now we're talking about how we interface with the internet, with our phone, with our voice and data traffic. So that's equipment that's going to plug and play. It's typically not a 149, it's Chapter 30B, Goods and Services Procurement. I have never really been able to completely identify where this committee's jurisdiction ends and where it begins when it comes to Chapter 30B projects. I mean, I think everything that's 149 should be here. 30B, so what's 30B? That would be the public safety radio system, phones here. Those are goods and services contracts. There's a nexus to the building presence, but it's not going to be let out under the building construction statute. See what I'm saying? I think on the public safety radio side, the nexus was we were going to alter a town building.
Makes sense.
In order to host the radio system, we had to put a small antenna set up on top of the high school. So that was
Right.
a logical place to have it discussed would be here. Because the school buildings are still town buildings.
Right.
It's still under your purview, so.
So to Shirley's question, I think it's worth a recommendation from this committee to prioritize the phone system to get this municipal fire alarm.
If you wanted to discuss that, I would recommend you put it on your agenda. It's 2 weeks away.
Okay.
The board is meeting Thursday, tomorrow, but then their next meeting is less than 2 weeks after that, so it's the following Tuesday, the 18th. Not the following Tuesday, but the one next, so the 6th and the 18th this month.
So, could we just recommend that they reinvestigate this again if it's been out there on their agenda?
I think, Madam Chair, what I would like to do is, if I could, is forward this committee all of the ARPA funding requests, because there are other building issues in there. And if you want to look them through and recommend more than one of them, or understand at least what the board is dealing with in terms of dynamic priorities, and
Okay.
determine what you could do from there.
That'd be helpful.
What are your
Sure.
thoughts? Yes?
Yeah, or even could you send it in an email, or,
I certainly could. Well, we have, all of the paperwork's been filled out, so
yeah, all right.
If I may interject, does the fire alarm system also incorporate a sprinkler alarm system?
yes. So the municipal center has sprinklers
Here.
in the basement and on the first floor. On the second floor, there are no sprinklers.
And that's been an issue.
So, yeah, we have smokes and poles and heat sensors to keep us open, because we have, there's a crawl space in between the second floor ceiling and the roof of this building. That all had, it is currently fire alarmed. It has heat sensors and smoke sensors in it, but it is not, there is no sprinkler system on the second
Right.
floor.
So if the existing fire system now was to break, where does that leave us?
In the kind of
You
place,
want to think about it?
in the kind of place I don't think about ever.
You guys might, it might
Right.
become an issue, because right now there is substantial backlog for fire supplies at this time. I'm actually involved in the industry, so between alarm systems, cameras, so because of the microchip shortage and everything like that, you might want to hope that system doesn't go down, and you might be in trouble.
So what are you saying? The sooner we get it on as a priority?
Well,
Get in line.
unless you have someone that can promise you that they can provide you with fire alarm parts, it's tough to come by right now. You're probably 6 months out for new parts.
Yeah, and that's what Adam has investigated and thought about, made me aware of. Our solution with really old stuff is usually to go to Fall River and hope that somebody in some basement somewhere has a box full of supplies.
Yeah,
Like those old-fashioned U-shaped fluorescent bulbs. I know exactly where you can still get those.
if the fire alarm system were to go down, we couldn't get it repaired for some reason, what does that do to our insurance? If there were to be a fire, would we not?
We would have to do something, right? So we would have to make an emergency procurement and do some,
Because the insurance
at
wouldn't pay,
at a
right?
minimum, a workaround with whatever we could find that was available that would cover us, right? You can't occupy the building without.
Yeah, but currently the fire alarm is not broken.
No,
Okay.
But my point was,
I know.
it's been sitting here on our agenda for a long time. I think there was even some money appropriated, which is there,
This is
but not enough at this
probably
point.
not, yeah.
So perhaps we need to move it along so that when the items are available, if, the community has voted, or however it is able to be moved and put in.
So if you don't mind, if we go to, so we're on letter E right now.
Yeah.
If we go to letters H and I on your agenda,
Right? Okay.
Right.
because this has been a game of dominoes.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I updated you last time. If I didn't, I will now. We had four fairly significant HVAC units on the roof of this
Yes.
building that were installed in 1996 when the schools did their rehab of the second floor for
Right.
their purposes. And those units provide heating and cooling to the second floor of the building. And it's very important in the winter, since we don't occupy that space, to keep the temperature at a reasonable level up there so that we don't have any pipes freeze. Because there's a fair amount of water up there. There's old lavatories, and there are sinks in some of the old classrooms, and yada, yada, yada. Over time, those units have failed slowly. The heat exchangers are, they don't last forever. And first we had one die, then we had another one die, and then a third one died, and then the contractor advised us, the fourth one isn't entirely adequate. You really need two up there. The one you have, if you open all the doors, and just, it's on its last legs. And so we're hoping to have an engineer fully review the need for rooftop units, because the staging of that work would impact our roof replacement. Because, my gosh, if anything can go wrong, it will go wrong when we're doing something, right? So the chances of anybody actually damaging the roof when they're installing HVAC are pretty slim. But you don't want to be that town administrator with a $300,000 roof project, and the guy has a bad day in the crane, and he's drinking his coffee, and when he just rips right through the membrane, and now you got to repair something, and it's not bright and shiny new anymore, it's something that's been repaired. So I really, in the abundance of caution, wanted to do the rooftop units first, and would have preferred to use the most environmentally sensitive, conscientious solutions. The engineer that was trying to work on it, it was just a small-time shop. And in the final analysis, we're coming towards the winter, and I said, well, we just can't play games with this. So what we've done, town meeting had approved funds for rooftop units. We bought 2, all right? They are the most up-to-code units under the present code. So we left the one that would
Was
still
there.
be a backup in the worst-case scenario, replaced one on one side of the building and one on the other, so we now have 3 out of 4 are operational, but 2 are brand new. And we won't fix the 4th one, we'll just leave that there. So going into this winter, this work was done yesterday.
Okay.
Oh, so they're on.
They're on.
Oh.
So the obstacle to having the roof done and bidding it out, now it's late. So I will bid it out this fall and this winter for springtime work. We'll replace the roof this spring. And we'll build around the new units that we have. The good news is we were able to get the same brand with the same basic footprint. So with minor modification, the new units rested right into the existing openings on the roof. So there was not a lot of disturbance to the roof or to the way the roof is laid out. I think what I would like to do with the roof project, we had talked about using a bidding technique called add alternate. So we have other
Right.
small roofs that we want to do over the glassed-in area
Yes,
above the gymnasium where the elevator resides.
right.
We had a leak there the last time we had one of these crazy storms where the water came in sideways and Douglas got like 4 inches of rain in whatever, half an hour, something ridiculous. So there was a leak. It wasn't anywhere near the elevator, thank God, but I think we need to be mindful of the fact that we really should just do all the roofs if we're going to be up there, and solicit at least some initial quote from someone to get a sense of whether we would be able to swing that with what town meeting approved.
And maybe get a better deal than if we were just doing one roof.
I've never been a big fan of doing roofs in pieces, even if they are discrete sections of a building and it's a completely different roofing arrangement, just because you end up with this paying for the staging, and not, so with the passage of time, 10 years from now, we don't even know who's going to work here, still be working here. You can pretty much be sure at least one person with the last name Furno will still be here, because there's a lot of people to choose from. But, institutional memory is huge. And I can remember in the last town I worked where they were doing this ridiculous part of a roof thing. It's like, well, so when was the last time all these things were done? Well, nobody still works here who remembers the last things we did or when this was done. And even though we document it now or are careful about it, there's no guarantee that people are going to know where to look. Doing all the roofs at once, it's been done, you know what the warranty periods are going to be, and you can hold people accountable. So that's the preferred approach. When we asked town meeting for this, we asked for a lot of money, because we did not know if there would be latent conditions underneath the existing roof that would need to be repaired. So the better part of wisdom was, we had a quote for X, but we asked for X plus Y.
Right.
So for a while, roofing supply costs were way up. They've come back a little bit more back down to earth. So I'm going to see where we end up this fall with the bidding process. I really don't want to hire a designer for this. I just don't like the idea of having to spend money on an architect to chase a roof project. And I think I ran that idea past Selectman Fitzpatrick, and he agrees. But I'll let him speak to it if you want to ask him directly. But that's where we are with the roof.
I have a question, Shirley.
Yes.
So all of the roofs, the gym, everything, because we just had a roof done here.
On the-
So I don't think we'll touch the gym. I
No.
think that's in really good shape.
And that's been more
And that's the one
recent.
we just had done
Yeah.
5-6 years ago?
Right.
Yeah,
But
that doesn't
it's-
need to be
but
touched.
it's
And then
so-
there's
yeah.
another piece over this edition, I think was done at the
Correct.
same time.
Yeah.
So it's the main roof, but I don't want the elevator roof to be an
Right.
add alternate. I actually want to
Okay.
take care of it.
Yeah.
The elevator is buku bucks, and so the best thing to do is keep that thing high and dry and not have to mess with it.
So it's not the entire complex?
Not the whole complex.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So getting back to why we went to, from E to H and I,
So the first domino has fallen. We have an HVAC resolution. It allows us to go to the roof replacement,
right,
and when that work is done, I mean, to my mind, almost simultaneously, the fire alarm could be done. So I'm looking at spring as a timeframe.
Only if the phones are fixed.
Again, I don't think that's an absolute domino.
It
You're saying,
might be.
in an ideal world, we would not deal with anything in this building that's connected to a telephone system until we've resolved all of the telephone issues. But the fire alarm is, it's a life safety device that allows us to keep the building open. So if we get to the point where we have to do it and let the phone thing go, then we'll just do it.
Okay.
so we were talking about them being under an opera
The phone.
items,
Phone,
the
only-
phones. So that could go on, for the opera, whereas we could do the roofs once we get the HVAC, which is done. Okay,
Yep.
all right. So you're going to provide information regarding our move towards requesting the selectmen to,
Yes, I'll give you the whole list of all the
Okay.
ARPA requests.
okay. Is that good? Everybody? All right, back to, I think I asked you, I got an answer, but I just want to make sure the rest of the board knows the municipal gym windows are complete,
Project is complete and closed out.
and the ceiling around them is good? Because there was, I think I heard there was some issues there? No?
No, we went with a couple of, before the project was closed out, we had a couple of people, including the building commissioner and one of the selectmen,
Yeah.
review the work,
Okay.
go back to the vendor and say, we want you to do some additional things. All of those items were done, were
Okay.
completed, to the satisfaction of everyone,
Okay.
so.
So we can
Windows are
take,
tight.
we can take
This
that
can
one
go.
off the list. Finally,
One down.
finally. Okay, heat pumps.
Well, I think you can also take I off the list, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
No,
Yeah.
HVAC.
H.
the H,
H,
yeah,
yeah.
okay. Okay,
So now we're on G,
Yes.
yep,
and I got a
radio system, yes.
optimistic update.
That seemed to have moved along so well, and then it stopped. We
Yeah.
had issues.
And we got, pun intended, I guess, we got radio silence from the radio guys for quite a while. We hit a little bit of a, obstacle with
The tower people,
the tower people. That got cleared up. The town permits were all put in place very quickly after we got an application. So I'm going to read to you from the project manager's update that I got on September 30th. Because I've been on them like every week. We are ready to start the tower work the week of October 17th. This was the tower crew, the riggers that
yep,
hoist the equipment up there. That was their first available date. We will receive the final pieces of the console the first week of November. So that's the console downstairs.
yeah,
And we'll begin configuration and setup at that time. The assembly, setup, and configuration of the microwave began this week. So I think there you have it. So if I'm a betting man, I would say that as we have the aroma of turkey, if you still observe turkey for turkey, turkey and stuffing, gravy, and a public safety radio system. About the same time.
it just seemed,
Every time they come to us, we turn around what they need in like a day or two.
yeah,
And then when we need something from them, it's taking a month or two. I think there's been some lead time issues, communication hasn't been the greatest. I would be hard pressed to recommend this firm to any other municipality, just because I was promised, I think I told you guys this thing would be up in April,
yes, you did,
Yeah.
yeah,
because that's what I was told, and I don't do this stuff for a living, so.
Understand.
I take them at their word, and then I'm annoyed that I own their representations. But
okay, so,
I
we'll-
also want it to work, and
yeah,
just so that everybody understands the thought process, it would not be unusual for me to pull this contract if I felt that it was in the best interest of the town. I've made a conscious decision to think that through and to not do it. So everybody knows that I haven't just sat here and waited.
okay,
I've explained it before, and I'll say it again, that a lot of these public safety radio installation companies have relationships with specific brand-named equipment. The vendor we chose is a Harris Radio and Kenwood Radio supplier. They do not sell Motorola products. The firm that everybody's heard of, I might as well say the name, is Cybercom. They're one of the biggest players in the industry, and they sell exclusively Motorola product. And you'll see a lot of fire and police companies all around the Commonwealth use Motorola. We made a conscious decision not to play with that brand because there's obsolescence planned into the equipment. So if you are a Motorola client, you pretty much have to replace your radio backbone every 5 years. So while they may have been a more competitive price, and they may have been able to get the work done faster, financially for the town, this would have been like an every 5-year thing. We would have come back, well, we need a new base station because the old one doesn't work, and they've upgraded all the software on it, and this particular piece of hardware is no longer able to be updated, so they want you to take it out. It's, oh yeah, by the way, it's $250,000. Really just didn't want to play that game, and what Marcus sold us is a product that they feel is going to be stable for many, many years. And that was the decision-making process. So while we probably could have gotten Cybercom to take this project over and move it along a little bit more quickly, I just didn't want to get into that
Yeah.
level of expenditure. So that everybody knows kind of what we're dealing with here. I went to a fire chief's legislative breakfast up in Shrewsbury. And you go to those things, not so much to listen to the legislators talk, but to listen to the issues that the fire chiefs are dealing with in the small talk around the eggs and the bacon, because that's where you learn a lot of things. And there was one chief there, and I don't want to say what town he was from, but it was a town that's not far from here at all, and not a whole heck of a lot bigger, maybe more people. And they are spending $4 million on their public safety radio system, because they've been told that they need to buy everything, soup to nuts. Towers, plus all the dishes that go on the towers, and then all the radio equipment. $4 million. We're still doing this project for $750,000. So I'm holding out hope that it works the way we want it to work.
Right.
I'm also confident that if we have any issues, it's going to be in a part of town where some of our new commercial development might actually be able to step up and help us with it if we needed it. But right now, I'm still very much sold on the idea that the water tower, the industrial communications tower on the Webster line, and the new antenna on top of the high school will give us much better coverage than our single pole gives us now. So we're going to 3 towers from 1. So hopefully it'll all work out. But again, I'm half resentful that I've been told, well, it'll be this date, it'll be this date, it'll be this date, and I get optimistic and I tell everybody what the date is, and then it doesn't come.
Well,
So,
we understand. but-
painfully aware of.
Right.
And if you pulled the contract, it would push it back even further.
Right,
Yeah,
because I can't guarantee that the other company's crew would be available any faster.
exactly. All right, keep it on. We still need to know.
Yep.
All right, so I think we've covered all of those. We're down to heat pumps, I believe, for the fire station.
Yeah, so if you don't mind, Madam Chair, I'm just going to say I can stay for another 10 minutes,
No,
but
we
then I
want to
have
get.
to go.
Yep. So,
So these J and K are actually, again, are largely the same conversation.
yep,
We had already awarded a design contract to the same company that's doing the backup generator here.
the generator,
The
yeah.
design company. So-
McRitchie.
McRitchie. In conversations with McRitchie, I said, what would be the additional designer fee for you to design the mechanicals at the same time as the electrical? And then we would know that the electrical system you're going to install or upgrade at the fire station would handle upgraded mechanicals in a way that the electrical engineer would want it to handle it. So Howard came back with, I'm going to say, I think it's 25, but I'll say $3,500 just to keep myself safe. So call it $3,500 for the additional design work for the mechanicals.
Okay,
So I've agreed to that, and we're looking at a kickoff meeting very soon. We want to get everybody out of there in terms of the lighting fixtures and the weatherization, the insulation. All that work is now done. And so those people are out of the way. Again, we're captive to the generator market and how
Yep.
fast we're going to be able to get a generator. So I'm not in a huge rush to push McRitchie on that stuff. So that's where we are with
Okay.
both of those issues. We do think that having a design professional on the heat pumps is the better part of wisdom. Because that building, now that you've been through it, you know, it's got the
Yes.
bays with high ceilings and the
Yeah.
doors are open and closing versus the office space, meeting space,
okay,
resting quarters are much smaller. So the demands on the heat pump system are going to be quite different. There are solutions for that. There are specific heat pump technologies for that type of thing. I have put those heat pumps on the ARPA request list
Good.
for the select board. So again, I'm not looking to the.
They're on the list as to one of the items.
Right.
They can,
That was also the selling point to having having McRitchie just send us the fee, because the fee will be ARPA,
Oh, good.
right? It's all one project, it's the heat pumps. So,
okay. Any questions,
No?
comments? Ray?
No, sounds good.
Okay. All right, and thank you, Matt, for all the information. And the only thing we've got left is our meeting schedule for 2023. And any questions, comments? I know it always looks good when we start out, but then we sometimes have things that come up and we have to change, but it's
Looks good.
still the third Wednesday. Thank you, Matt.
thank you.
Bye.
So you want to approve it?
I make a motion to approve the 2023 Building Facilities Construction Committee meeting schedule.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the schedule for 2023. Any questions, any comments? Ray, did you get a schedule?
I did not, so I guess I have to stop by the town hall. They said they were gonna start a folder for me.
All right, yeah, you do have one here, and you can go into the Community Development office, and they'll have it for you.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so now that I've asked for a motion, maybe we better hold and have our other two members, although we do have a quorum, but it would be, all right? So you want
Will I
to,
take back my motion?
yes. Fred, you take back your second?
I do.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
All right.
We'll wait.
We have also minutes. Do you want to review the minutes, or do you want to
Well, the three of us
hold
can
them?
vote on it.
I have not read them because I
Oh,
didn't
well,
have
then I
them.
guess we'll wait.
Yeah, we can wait.
Okay, so we'll,
We have two sets.
two sets, July 20th and August 10th.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a,
Yeah, go ahead. Fred?
this is something completely different. We go through a lot of paper here.
Yeah,
And another committee that I was, we went completely paperless. I know it doesn't work for everybody, but it's just something to be thinking about. When we had our meetings, everybody had a device, and if, it was a cable meeting, so if somebody didn't have a device, one was ready and available to be used. It's all,
I hear you.
doesn't work for everybody.
I'm a paper person.
Okay,
And like when I correct minutes, I like to circle and write in what I'm
I'm with
thinking
you.
of.
I'm with you.
Because I do read them online when Jen
I do,
sends them to us, but
Yeah.
I have no way to
So we had people
correct them.
on that committee too that were paper people.
Yeah.
So we kind of had a mixture.
Yes.
Until it all went completely digital. Just something to think about in the future.
Yeah, thank
Because we go
you.
through a lot of paper.
Yeah, but I
Yeah, it's up in
recycle
that-
my paper.
Yeah, it ends up in the recycle bin on the way out
Yeah.
the door.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so remember to read the minutes, and they'll be on the next agenda. And October 19th is our next one, because we're having two meetings this month,
Yeah.
and probably next month too, not sure, but, okay? And that will be in your folder too, minutes, although, it's good information for you, Ray.
Yeah,
And if you have any problems, comments, please send me an email or check with the people in the community development. Jen is great, gives you all kinds
Okay.
of information, and thank you for coming on board.
oh, thank you for having me.
Yes, well,
So, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn at 5:25.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And would you state your name? We have one person on,
Linda Brown, aye.
Fred Fontaine, aye.
Very
Ray,
contact.
and Shirley Mazinski, aye. Thank you, everybody.